What's up, Dragon Ball Super players? Welcome back to Crossworld TCG. My name is Logan, and today we're going to be covering my green Super 17 Cell Chain Android deck profile. Now, this is the first time a Cell Chain deck has been featured on the channel, and that's mostly due to the fact that Joey and I both had quite a disdain for Cell Chain in sets 2 through 4. However, with set 5, the deck has gained a ton of cool tools that make it more of a utility box than anything else, and less of just mill your opponent's hand into the drop turbo. So with that, we'll jump straight into the leader. This is the Super 17 leader, Auto Burst 2. Much like all the other standard leaders from set 5, you mill 2 cards, draw a card. So really good for you can attack anything, draw a card. And then when he awakens, he untaps 2 energy. This is the first green Android card, or leader, that we have that actually untaps energy, which is really good because it allows us to put on more pressure in those big turns. Typically with Cell Chain, you are tapping out at 3 and like leaving yourself completely undefended. However, with the leader effect to untap energy as well as the sparking negate, it's way easier to play defense than ever was before in these Cell or Super 17 or Android lists. And the backside of the leader, once it's awakened, becomes Super 17 Evil Entwined, auto sparking 5 when this card attacks, draw a card, and then it gains critical for the duration of the turn. So really solid. You have 5 in your drop, you swing for crit, you draw a card. Don't have to do anything, unlike how in like set 1 Vegeta you had to pick up a life. Just critical all the time. Really great for pressuring your opponent, especially when you're going to be ripping cards out of their hand the entire game. And then to go with that effect, he has an activate main. If your opponent has 10 or more cards in their hand, your opponent places cards from their hand in the drop until they have 9 cards in their hand. So if you're playing against someone, you catch them slipping at like 12-13 cards, you can make them discard 4 cards for free, which is really cool. It doesn't happen too often, but it's basically a bonus effect, bonus discard, so it's pretty nice. Moving on into the main deck, we have 4 Shocking Death Ball. This is a new negate out of set 5. It is counter attack. Your leader card is green. Negate the attack, then choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards with an energy cost of 2 or less, KO it. And then also has a Sparking 5 effect where if you have 5 or more cards in the drop, you can play this card from your hand without paying energy and instead by taking a life. So this card is very good against the Storm matchups, against many aggro matchups, because you're able to pop their stuff. Though your leader fuels this card, so you're able to turn it on by turn 2 against, like, say, Storm, for example. You're able to pop their attacking cards, and honestly, it's one of the best negates that we got out of set 5. All of them are fantastic. I think green androids, they needed this more than the other colors needed their negates. This is really good, really ups the level of defense that you can play in this deck. Continuing on, we play 4 consistency cards. Doctor's Row, Evil Inventor. When you play this card, look at the top 3 cards of your deck, choose an android, add it to your hand, then shuffle your deck. Really good. Scries through your deck, hits your Cell Chain pieces, hits your Energy Guard Android 17 pieces. Really solid. Hits your Deadly Defenders. Good card. Helps you see your stuff, helps you see Cell Chain early on. Moving on, both of these next 2 cards, a little bit more of tech cards. These can be swapped maybe for the Black Mass Saiyan 1-drop, or a Kami, the 1-drop Kami that wipes the board. I decided to go with this because I'm just keeping it mono green. These cards are a little underplayed right now, and I still think they have a lot of good utility. So I decided to feature them in this deck profile. But starting off, we have King Vegeta Surprise Attack, Activate Battle, choose up to one of your battle cards, it gains 10k power, Revenge for the duration of the turn. So it gives something 10k power and Revenge, and this couples very, very well with the 4 Deadly Defender Android 18 that we play in the deck. It's a 3-drop barrier, permanent during your opponent's turn. If your leader card is green and this card is in rest mode, this card, your opponent's cards cannot attack leader cards, and this card gets minus 5k power. So it goes down to 15k, but if you have an energy open and you put a King Vegeta Surprise Attack on it, it becomes very difficult for your opponent to deal with this card. And every time they try to swing into it to kill it, and you combo out, it'll not only save your opponent from being able to kill this card and pressure your leader, but also it'll kill whatever is attacking it, because King Vegeta's Surprise Attack gives it Revenge for the turn. And 25k Revenge is very, very difficult to get over. Continuing on, the other kind of tech niche card that I played in this deck, Android 20, Vile Creator. This is a Champa-esque card. It is when you combo with this card during your turn. It's a 1/5k. So when you combo this card during your turn, choose up to one attacking green android, and it gains 5k double strike for the duration of the turn. So it's really cool. It gives it double strike for the turn, which is really cool because it combos well with this Super 17, which has dual attack crit. So it'll be swinging for dual attack double strike crit, which is really cool, plus a 5k bump. Very relevant, very good card. It's a little bit more niche. It'll help you end games much like Champa would. However, the Android deck space is a little bit tight, so I can see why people cut it in favor of tech cards for other matchups. However, I think it also has a lot of good utility, so I'm showing it off here. Moving on, I'm playing 4 of the new Sparking Green super combos. When you're at 5 or 5 cards in the drop, you can activate this card, draw a card, and it's really good because your leader has burst, so it turns on turns 1, turn 2. So thing with this deck is that you don't necessarily even need to awaken, because your front side of your leader draws cards, and then your super combos draw cards before you're awakened. So if you don't want to and your opponent doesn't really want to pressure you, that's fine, because the longer the game goes for you, the better the position is going to be, the more 17s you're going to be able to establish on the boards, the more opportunities you're going to have to perfect force sell, and the more opportunities you're going to have to be able to destroy your opponent's hand size and completely get rid of all of their advantage. Moving on, we have one of the main chains of the deck, the starting piece, Hellfighter 17, Evil Revived, Barrier, which is really cool for 3-drop, and it's Union Absorb. Place 1 Android 17 card from your hand or drop under this card. Choose 1 Super 17 card with energy cost 4 or more of 4 from your deck or drop area played on top of this card. So what's really cool about the 17 line is that you can mill your 17 pieces into the drop and then still Union Absorb by sucking up the pieces from the drop and then playing a Super 17 from the drop. So this card is basically going to be live all game, even if you mill out all of your pieces. All you need is a 3-drop to start progressing through your chain in order for this to be really good. We'll kind of skip around for now. Continuing on with the chain, we play 2 of the other Union Absorb card. Super 17 to further heights, Barrier, Deflect. When you play this card, choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards and KO it. So this card's really cool. Unfortunately, its Union Absorb effect is 2 green and 2 colorless, which means that it costs a lot of energy to move up into the 6-drop of the chain. However, it does have Barrier Deflect, which means that you can stick this on the board, leave it there for a turn, and it'll be fine. Also, it KOs a card when it comes into play. And the fact that the 3-drop does that for free anyways means it's really good. It just sits there, can't be stopped. And then the other 4-drop that we play in the chain is in Super 17 Infernal Machine. There's a 4-drop, 20k, double strike, permanent. This card cannot be negated. When you play this card, you may place 2 cards from your hand in the drop, and if you do, your opponent chooses 2 cards in their hand and places them in the drop as well. So this is really good because you can go from the 3-drop into this one for free. You don't have to pay any energy, you just have to suck up a Android 17 from the drop area and play this guy. Discard like your opponent's cards from their hand, and the fact that this guy can't be negated is very, very strong. This guy combos very well with Perfect Force Cell. I'll talk a little bit about the curve once we read through the rest of these cards. But overall, really solid card. This guy came out of the tournament pack, so if you can go to tournaments and get them, really strong for this deck. Moving on, we have 2 of the 6-drop, Super 17, Cell Absorb, Critical, Dual Attack, Deflect, so many tags, Auto, Sparking 10. When this card attacks, if your leader card is a green Android card, opponent chooses 2 cards from their hand, places them in the drop. So when this card swings, you potentially can rip 4 cards out of your opponent's hand every turn, or swing once, rip 2, restand him, protect him from being attacked on the next turn, because he's not very big, he's only a 20k. But the fact that you can mill this card into your drop and then still Union Absorb into it is very strong. One of the better pieces of the cell chain. We're only playing it at 2 for that reason. More than 2 clogs in this deck. You really just want to mill all of your Super 17s into the drop and then get access with them from the 3-drop by playing that guy. So it's okay. It's really okay. It's not like the cell chain where if you mill your pieces, it's the end of the world. And speaking of the cell chain, we have 4 copies of Growing Evil Lifeform Cell, Union Absorb. Place 1 Android 17 from your hand under this card. Choose up to 1 cell with energy 5 or less from your deck. Place it on top of this card, shuffle your deck afterwards. So this is the beginning of the cell chain. You suck up any one of these 6 Android 17s that we play. Unfortunately, Super 17s are not Android 17s, they are Super 17s, so you can't absorb him with this guy's effect. However, once you suck up a Android 17, he turns into Evolving Evil Lifeform Cell. When this card is played with Union, draw a card, choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards, KO it, and it has double strike. And more importantly, it has Union Absorb for 1. Place 1 Android 18 from your hand under this card. Choose 1 cell from your deck and place it on top of your hand and shuffle. And with this guy, you evolve into the mighty Perfect Force Cell. Double strike. He evolves over a cell for 6 energy, which is not very relevant, but he has double strike. When you play this card, if your leader card is Android, opponent chooses cards in their hand until they only have 3 remaining and places the chosen cards in the drop. So this is a very, very powerful card. It allows you to literally take your opponent's hand down from 10, 11, 12, all the way down to 3. Really strong card. It's a little bit easier to play around now because people are used to playing around Perfect Force Cell. If they see you're playing an Android list, they don't typically go as hard on the hand advantage, but that's good for you because having either way, your opponent's going to have less cards in their hand, and for every card less that they have is one less card that they can use to block out of attacks or stop you from going for game. So it's really good overall. And speaking of the cards that we absorb into with the 3-drop, first off, the Android 17s that we play are 3 Energy Guard Android 17. This is a card out of the Tournament of Power. He's really good. Blocker, 15k. At the end of the turn, switch this card to active mode, so you can play him down, swing at a threat that's on your opponent's board, like one of the 1-drop cards that help your opponent awaken, or like a Goten, or anything small, anything that's putting on pressure on you. Kill the card, or make your opponent waste cards to protect it for free, and then at the end of the turn it restands and allows you to have a defensive play, so that way even if you tapped out for this guy you have a blocker on the board, but don't tap out for this guy, he's not really worth it. And then another Android card that we have, Android 17, is Limitless Energy Android 17 out of the Ultimate Box. Barrier, blocker, fantastic skills to have together. Auto, when you play this card, if your leader card is green, choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards and kill it. So it comes into play, pops a card, and then he's just a big barrier blocker sitting on the board that your opponent has to deal with at some point in the game. Just another very defensive card. And then the 18s that the 5-drop can absorb. We're playing 4 Deadly Defender Android 18. This card, we talked about a little earlier, came out of set 5. Prevents your opponent from attacking into you, which means that all of the androids, all they serve is either fodder or defensive purposes to prevent your opponent from actually being able to push on you. So this deck now has a very strong blend of offensive hand removal and offensive pressure, as well as the fact that it has a lot of defense that it can fall back on, which is really cool, especially with this Deadly Defender Android 18. Before, Cell Chain used to have a little bit of a hard matchup against Hercule because Hercule could hold off on the Awaken. They could stall your Awakening, which hurts you a lot, and then bounce back right afterwards by going very tall. However, with Android 18, every turn that they give you is another Android 18 on the board that they're going to have to deal with, and at some point in the game they're not going to be able to swing through all of these, so you'll most likely win out that matchup. And then the last 2 we play are Dreadful Duo Android 18, critical, activate main once per turn. During your turn, if opponent's battle card with an energy 4 or more has been placed in the drop, choose from any one of your skills, choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards with energy cost 3 or less and KO it. This really can be any other Android 18. This could be the twin sister that restands Android 17s. However, I didn't see a ton of value in playing twin sister in this build because I'm only playing 2 Limitless Energy Android 17, so I'd rather have a card that's relatively decent standalone by itself. So that's why this is in here. Really, it's just to bolster the number of 18s that we have, so that we have 6 17s and 6 18s, which is a good enough number that with your Dr. Giroux and a Mulligan, you should be able to see them turns 3 or 4 with your Cell Chain. And then continuing on, we have, oh, no, I'm sorry. Because of the way I went through the deck, it's that's actually the end of the deck. So looking back on the way that the curve fills out for this deck, around turn 3 and other Cell Chain lists, you might want to plop down Evil Lifeform Cell, and that's always an option in this list if you absolutely have to. However, it's better if you can just, on turn 3, put down an Hellfighter 17 Evil Revived. Because he has Barrier, he'll be very difficult to deal with, and unless you're playing against a very aggressive deck, turn 3 you typically won't be getting killed. So you're able to drop this turn 3, and then on the next turn, you're able to put down your Evolving Lifeform Cell, go through full chain, put your opponent down to 3 cards left in hand, and then this guy is still on the board because he has Barrier, and you can Union Absorb a Cell piece from the drop, or a 17 from the drop, and to go into the Super 17, the Infernal Machine. And what this allows you to do is once they're at 3, you get to drop them another 2 cards down to 1 card, and then start putting on a ton of pressure from there on out. And then every Cell Chain you resolve from there on is free. Every Super 17 you resolve from there on is free. But by turn 4, you're almost guaranteed to be ripping their entire hand away from them, which is honestly really ridiculous. It's really good, especially with the amount of defense that this deck can play. Overall, I was a little bit hesitant on the Hellfighter, or on the Super 17 line at the beginning, but after testing with it, playing against it a little bit, it's actually very, very threatening, and I think it's a very solid contender moving into the next format. It has really good Shenron matchups, has really good, decent Storm matchups. If you win the dice roll playing this deck, you're going to have a good time. If you lose the dice roll, it becomes a little rougher. But overall, really solid deck. really just in a great place now that it's gotten all of these cards, become this like Swiss Army knife basically of utility, discarding cards, preventing attacks from getting negated, playing defense. Really, this deck does it all now, and with the Super 17 leader allowing you to untap energy, dealing crit damage, it just feels like everything has finally come together for the droid archetype. And fun deck to play. Your friends might not think so much because it is a hand control list, but other than that, let me know what you guys think about this deck in the comments down below. Like I said, there's a few text slots that you guys can fill in here with the King Vegeta Surprise Attack and the Vile Creator. 4 cards that you can swap out for like Kamis, Dark Power Mass Hands. If your locals has a ton of Chronoas, that's also a good option. However, really solid list overall. I hope you guys enjoyed this deck profile, and I'll see you guys next time.